When you were a kid, did you ever take family vacations anywhere?
Mostly to Colorado.
Yeah.
Well, no, actually, my cousin played hockey for a very competitive league. So when he would have a tournament in a different state, if like one time we went to South Dakota, I hardly remember it. I think my dad said one time we went to Chicago. It's hard to remember because I was really young when we went there. Yeah. Which is funny because I was really young, which meant my cousin, he's only 2 years older than me.
Yeah.
But he was playing that competitive. He was with a travel hockey league.
Mm. So most of your like family vacations were like to go see family.
You know, we did Cedar Point one year. That was cool. Yeah. Cedar Point was awesome.
Yeah, it's in Michigan, right? It's like an amusement park. It's in Ohio. Yeah, I've heard of that place.
But we were in Michigan, so it was a pretty easy trip for us to do. It's like a 4 or 5 hour drive.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember we went to Disney World in Florida a few times. And then one vacation my family loved doing, they loved going to Niagara Falls.
Yeah.
But after like the first time you go to Niagara Falls, like you've seen and done most of the stuff. So after we would go, like I remember like the third time I went, I was kind of like...
Again.
I was like, again?
Yeah, but with how like close it is here, it's like an easy family trip to do, especially if you're tight. Like my family grew up pretty tight, like... My parents budgeted well, but it wasn't like we had a lot of extra spending money.
There was one, it was kind of like an impromptu vacation. We were going to go to Florida to go to like Disney World. It was when my sister was really young. She hadn't gone that much, but there was going to be a hurricane the week we were going to be down there. Mm-hmm. So instead, my family just decided to go to Pennsylvania instead. And we went to like Amish country and like Hershey Park. And then we went to this, like, Sesame Street-themed water park. But, you know me, I hate water. So it wasn't the best time. We lost Catherine for a minute.
Nice.
We had to go find her. She was really young, too. She was probably, like, 4 or 5.
Did I ever tell you the story? My mom was in a grocery store, and she didn't have me for, like, the first time.
Yeah.
I don't know who was watching me, but someone was watching me. So they're in the grocery store for the first time without their newborn or their baby. And my mom just started pushing a stroller that she thought was me. Mm-hmm. Gets all the way out of the fucking store and realizes this isn't my kid.
Oh, Jesus.
And the mom, she went all the way back in the store and the parent didn't even notice.
Dang.
Yeah.
Were you guys wearing like similar clothes?
Well, I wasn't there.
Oh.
She was just so used to having a stroller around. It was like the first time she didn't have me. I was either at home with Dad, or maybe Dad was with her and Grandma was out and watching me. Someone was watching me and at home. And so it was like, you know, their first time parents, and they were so used to having me that when they're, you get in a habit when you're grocery shopping and stuff. Mm-hmm. And if you're used to pushing a stroller, how easy is it to just start pushing a stroller?
Yeah.
Especially because I colicked as a kid. So I kept them up at all hours of the night. I was crying all the time. So she was probably like sleep brain too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember like when we lost Kat for that minute, like this amusement park was so crowded, mm-hmm. and we were leaving. We were like trying to get back to the car, and we had to get through this big crowd of people, and we got through the other side of this big crowd, and it was Mom, Dad, and me, and we were like, "Where's Kat?" And then we had to like go back into this giant crowd, and we eventually found her like in there, like she's just crying, like ah. She was only gone for like a minute or two, but it was funny just being like, oh, we lost Kat. It's like, well, we gotta go find her.
Thankfully, she was safe.
Yep.
That's why. My, speaking of Amish, like, country, my grandma loved going to Shipshewana in Indiana.
Oh, yeah.
Because it was only about an hour and a half from us. And they had a really cool, like, flea market that was outdoors, or, like, just a market that was really cool. Mm-hmm. It's where my mom got all of this, like, really fancy furniture with, like, that table they have with the gears in it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Got it from one of those vendors, but it was expensive.
Yeah. Yeah, Amish furniture is pretty expensive.
But it's well crafted.
Yeah.
You know, that stuff's not gonna wear other than probably, like, maybe you have to restain it once in a while.
Yeah.
But yeah, Grandma liked going to Shipshewana. I remember we did a trip to Chicago with my grandma after we got American Girl dolls, because the American Girl doll store.
Yeah, my sister and my cousins were super into those. My grandma got them all for them.
My grandma got one for Ashley and Audrey, and I liked reading the books because they were historical fiction.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked that aspect, but I just wasn't a doll person.
Yeah.
I had Polly Pockets that I remember liking. I think that's about the girliest thing I liked growing up. But I would have rather been outside on tree forts or playing football.
Trying to think of like cool toys I had. I was really, Bionicles.
Mm-hmm.
I had a bunch of Bionicles.
Troy loved those.
Yeah, those were like for kids my age. Then those were sick to have.
Mm-hmm.
You built them. They made these cool little like creature things.
Did you collect Pokemon cards?
No, I never did. Never got into that.
My brother did. And I would take them, and the ones I thought were cute, I'd cut out.
Oh my god.
Yeah. And I really like the shiny ones that are, like, actually, like, really good cards to get. The holographic, I think is what they call them.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, and it didn't take much. Like, I thought the rock one was cute. The rock snake. Onyx, I think is its...
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So.
You just cut them out.
Yeah, and put them on my wall. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. Yep, Bionicles were cool. I liked, I don't know, I think that was like my favorite toy for a while.
I think it's because we both grew up mostly being outside.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, I had a handful of toys. I had stuffed animals that I liked.
One thing like the neighborhood kids and me would do, we did for like a while, is we had like these little rubber ducks and we would build villages for them. And we would just like, out of sticks and bark and whatever we could find, we would build these cool, like, intricate houses. And like we would have like these little villages underneath the walnut tree. So yeah.
Troy had G.I. Joes.
Mm-hmm.
And we would make the Barbies the terrorists.
Oh my god.
Yeah, we'd make the Barbies the terrorists. And then we would he had like a little remote Jeep or something, and we'd drive it like through the mud and then decapitate the Barbies.
Jeez. That's dark.
Well, they were terrorists, Jake.
They were terrorists.
Yeah, that was like something we would do to make sure we knew, oh wait, that Barbie died because we popped her head off. Like,
God.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Oh, I've got this one story Dad reminded me of it this week. So, like we were just talking about, we would always play outside. And we had this one time where one of the neighborhood kids, like we would always have fires, like bonfires and stuff. And my dad was burning a bonfire. And one of the neighborhood kids had this like egg-shaped rock. And he was heating up the rock in the fire. And then he'd take it out with a stick and then he'd pour water on it and like watch the water like evaporate. But anyway, the rock was like super hot. So he's like rolling it around with a stick. And my dad sees him doing this, and, he was very particular about having rocks in the yard. He's like, I'm going to hit that with the lawnmower. He's like, stop doing that. You're going to forget about the rock, and I'm going to hit it with the lawnmower. So then the kid was like, all right, yeah. And then he kind of kept moving it around with the stick, and my dad saw it and was just like, all right, he's not listening to me. So my dad went over and was kind of mad. He was like, I said, stop playing with the rock. And he went to grab the rock with his hand. Thing's piping hot. So my dad picks up the rock, like yelling at this kid, and it's just, because he burnt his hand when he picked it up. Because he didn't understand that the kid was heating it up and was like rolling it. That's why he was rolling it with a stick. And the poor kid was like, he cried because he hurt my dad. My dad was just like, oh, it's fine. I just didn't know what was going on. But
so my grandparents had this playhouse, which like it's the size of a tiny home.
Mm-hmm.
And it had electricity and stuff. And one thing the five of us would do, my cousins and my siblings, is my cousin and I would be the teachers, and we would actually give them homework. Like, I don't know why the boys went along with this, my brother and my other cousin, but they would do it. They would do the homework that we would make them.
Were you making them do like algebra?
My
That
sister
sucks.
wouldn't. Well, it was math, but I think it was multiplication at this age.
Yeah.
But yeah, and we would write long ass worksheets for them to do, and then we would just like play around. Instead of playing house, we played school, and the boys would actually do it. Now, my sister was always in her own world. She preferred being like on her own, doing her own thing, so it wasn't usually her. Or she'd be like, no, I'm not doing that, Yeah. It's like, but, yeah, the boys, they would do it. And I'm like, why? Tell you what, though, like, my brother was, like, a people pleaser. That was his problem. Like, he still is a people pleaser. So...
Yeah, we never played school. That sounds lame.
Well, it wasn't lame for my cousin and I because we were the teachers, so we just assigned them all this work. Or we would just, like, take my mom's, like, microbiology book and make them read, like, chapters from it, and then we'd go play. And then later, the boys would still be in the playhouse, and they're like, well, we haven't finished. And I'm like, what?
How much older were you than Alex and Troy?
I'm 2 years older than both of them.
Okay, yeah. That's funny.
Because they were born in the same year, so like 2 years older than my brother, and then about 2.5 to 3 years older than my young cousin. Because Alex is the youngest.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Crazy that they do it.
Yeah.
My favorite was, though, the youngest, the cousin. He would get mad at us. For just whatever reason. And when he would get mad at us, he'd disown us. He'd be like, you're not my cousin anymore. You're not my sister anymore. But when him and my brother fought, it was, like, bad.
Oh, yeah?
Because Alex was smart. He knew that the girls were pushing them around. And he was like, to my brother, he's like, why are you doing this? Why? Like, push back. Yeah. He's always had a mind of his own. Where like my brother was like, I'm gonna keep the ladies happy. Like,
I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So funny. Yeah. I can't believe we could get them to play school. Man, and then pulling a prank on my brother was so easy. It was so easy when he was sleeping. Like, I had friends over, and we dressed him up in, like, a bra and a dress. Like, we just put it over the clothes. He was, like, sleeping on the couch.
Yeah.
And he woke up while we were doing this, and I go, you're having a nightmare. It's okay. I was just concerned. I acted like the nice sister. Like, I was just concerned you're having a nightmare, and then he'd fall back asleep.
Yeah.
And then he'd wake up with, like... He went to baseball practice with half a mustache because he woke up when we were drawing it with Sharpie. And he hadn't looked in the mirror and didn't realize it till he was like this, and then like had ink on his hand.
You've told me this story before. Someone had to bring him to baseball practice.
Why
did no one say, why do you have half a Sharpie mustache?
Oh, hold on. I think Watson wants to chime in. What's up, dude?
Nope.
No? Oh, are you mic shy?
Growing up, I had two phases of growing up when I was a kid, because when I was younger, there was a lot of older kids in the neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So like I was like the young kid hanging out with them for like the first few years of like my childhood. I'd say probably from like age 8 to like 11, 12. Mm-hmm. I hung out with like all these older kids. But then as they became teenagers, obviously they stopped hanging out with me. And then there was another group of kids that were now like younger, but still kind of in that same range as like me and these older kids. Just now I was the older kid. Mm-hmm. And so then I, like second half of my childhood, I hung out with like this group of younger kids. So yeah, there was like two phases. Like I remember like playing with like the older kids. I remember we would play spy all the time. Like we would just sneak around and spy on people. And people would be like, what are you guys doing? It's just like, we'd just be like hiding and like eavesdropping on the adults and we were playing spy.
Yeah, well, I guess you weren't very good spies if they were asking what you were doing.
Yeah.
I think every kid goes through their spy phase, though.
Then obviously would play Manhunt a lot.
Because did you watch Spy Kids? I think every kid went through their spy phase.
Yeah, that's probably where we got the idea from, was that.
Well, and when Spy Kids came out, they had a bunch of toys that were like a voice amplifier.
Yeah.
And to spy.
Yeah.
But
I remember I had like these, they were toy night vision goggles. It's literally just like green tinted goggles. But I would use those, and I felt like I was so like stealth with my night vision.
As the adults are like, "What are you doing?"
Yeah, I have like just this outrageous like headset on. I'm like laying down in a bush. Yes. What are you doing?
Some spy you were.
Yeah.
Should have gone British SAS.
I remember like the older kids. They liked playing Manhunt with me though, because I would hide in like weird places. Like, there was this one hiding spot that they couldn't find. I was in plain sight, but they couldn't find me. They had, like, they played hockey. Mm-hmm. The neighbors did, and they had a hockey net. And then, like, the hockey net was up against, like, this big railroad, like, not spike. It's, like, one of the big, like, wooden bars, like, for a railroad. But they had their hockey net against that. And I just laid down, like, between the hockey net and that. And they couldn't find me. Like, I wasn't, like, if you looked at it, you'd see me. But they could have just been being nice to me, but they weren't that much older that they had to do that.
Yeah.
So it was like, I distinctly remember it, like, that was such a cool hiding spot because I was in plain sight and nobody saw me. But
yeah, it's funny playing hide and seek with really young kids because I was around a 2.5-year-old. She wanted to play hide and seek. And her version is covering herself in a blanket while she's still standing.
Yes.
So, of course, I did the nice thing. Man, where did she go? But it's so funny because she didn't have the patience to wait for me to find her. So she'd pop out and scare me instead. It was really cute.
That's cute. Not to get all into, like, child psychology stuff, but, like, that's like a thing is when at a certain age you become... I guess you become self-aware that other people have perceptions, but at that age, they don't understand that they don't have the brain capacity to understand that somebody else has a different perception. So that's why they do that. Because it's like, I can't see them, so they can't see me.
There was a point where she put plastic buckets on her head, so I see her whole body, except for her head. It's fun to think about that kind of stuff.